All right, welcome. Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling idea. We're going to talk about the surprising sound of a society in real trouble. So, let's just jump right in. So, let me ask you this. What does social collapse actually sound like? I mean, if you're picturing loud protests, maybe riots, just constant angry noise, you might be in for a surprise. Because history suggests it's something much, much quieter. And believe it or not, far more dangerous. Okay, so here's the two competing ideas. On the one hand, you've got the popular view, right? That protest equals danger, that it's a sign of instability. But then, you look at the historical pattern, and it tells a totally different story. The real danger signal? It's silence. And that's the big paradox we're really going to unpack here. In this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. Societies do not fall at the moment of greatest noise. They fall after the noise stops working. Think about that. The breaking point isn't the shouting. It's the moment everyone realizes that shouting is useless, and then they just stop. That's when the real fracture happens.
All right, so let's start by kind of reframing how we think about protest. We're going to see that it's not just about rebellion, it's actually a form of faith.
So, let's really define what protest is in this context. It's not just anger, right? It's fundamentally an act of faith. I mean, people only protest when they believe, even just a little, that the system can still listen and respond to them. It's a sign that they're still in the game, that they're still engaged.
And you know that anger you see? It's not about just tearing everything down for the hell of it. It's actually aspirational. It comes from a deep-seated hope that things can be better, that injustice can be fixed, if you can just force enough people to pay attention.
But what happens when that faith gets drained away bit by bit? Well, that brings us to something called the exhaustion cycle. Okay, let's walk through this, because this is a pattern you might actually recognize. First, a real problem gets pointed out. Then, people mobilize, they protest. Then, the people in charge give some assurances. We'll look into it. Maybe they form a committee. And then, time just passes. And those promised changes, they either never show up or they're so watered down they're totally meaningless. And every single time this cycle repeats, a little more of that faith just chips away. And this is so important to get, the silence that comes after all this. It isn't apathy. It's not that people have stopped caring. It's that they have learned, the hard way, that engaging is pointless. It's what this calls learned futility. It's a totally rational response to a system that just won't listen.
Yeah, and this is what's so sneaky about how it works. A lot of modern systems don't crush dissent with, brute force. They just neutralize it. They do it with procedure. Grievances get buried in paperwork and bureaucracy until the energy to be outraged is just gone. Anger literally becomes inefficient.
So this whole process, it builds and builds until it leads to our main idea here, the silent fracture. This is the point where people stop trying to change the system and they just start adapting to it. And just look at how the strategy completely flips. When people are protesting, everything is collective, it's public, it's all about big ideas. But once the silence sets in, it all becomes private, individual. People stop trying to fix the whole system, and they just start looking for their own personal workarounds, their own exits. They're just trying to survive inside a broken machine. This leads to probably the single most dangerous mistake you can make. The institutions, they see all this quiet, and they think, great, people are on board. They mistake silence for consent. But it's not consent. It's withdrawal. People are just checking out. So let's nail down this definition. A silent fracture isn't when the rules break down. It's when expectation breaks down. People are still going through the motions, right? They're obeying laws, they're participating. But they're doing it with zero trust and zero hope. The society looks like it's functioning, but on the inside, it's completely hollowed out.
And this brings us to maybe the most alarming warning sign of them all. What it means when the youngest generation goes quiet. I mean, think about it. Historically, when young people get riled up and agitated, that's usually the first sign of big social changes to come. Their energy, their idealism, it's what pushes society forward. But what we're seeing now is something totally different. When young people today are silent, it doesn't mean they're happy. No way. It often means they're already planning their exit.
So why are they checking out? Well, it's because they've basically concluded the game is rigged. They look around and they see that effort doesn't really connect to a good outcome anymore, that the rules just shift on a whim, that protesting costs them a lot and doesn't achieve anything. So what's the logical next step?
They stop trying to imagine a shared future and they start planning a personal one. And a lot of the time, that future is somewhere else entirely.
And this quote, it is just chilling. When the future stops arguing with the present, decline becomes generational. It just captures the stakes so perfectly. When the next generation completely gives up on trying to change things, a society's decline isn't just some temporary problem. It gets baked into its DNA for generations to come.
So let's just pull this all together. Think about it. Anger, as messy and chaotic as it can be, is a vital sign. It's out in the open. You can negotiate with it. It forces the powers that be to actually pay attention. But silence is private. It's a withdrawal. You can't redirect it. And it gives institutions a free pass to just stop listening altogether.
So look, if there is one single thing you take away from all this, let it be this. That quiet you might see out there, that's not peace. It is the sound a society makes when it has finally run out of hope. It's the sound of exhaustion.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. The next time you look at a society, any society that seems calm and quiet on the surface, just ask yourself, am I looking at peace? Or am I hearing the sound of faith that is finally and silently fractured?